it's the concept of it's either a hell yes or a no. And what he means by that is so many people take on different like responsibilities or like obligations or whatever. They end up resenting it after because they're not like fully in it. And
Okay.
so he makes a distinction of like 99% of things that you do or that you get offered should be a no. And the last 1% should be reserved for the hell yes. So you only actually commit to something or get into something if you're like fully
Super
fucking for it.
for it.
Yeah.
And does that advice also like go to people starting out and stuff? Because that's, I think you hear a lot of people say that, like, hey, you know, you got to be really selective. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence is kind of famous for saying, like, even when she was starting out, she's like, I'm only going to do indies. I'm only going to do indies.
Really
just interesting films.
interesting.
And it's like, hey, like, look at her. She did go on and do some like really good stuff. And now says she's mellowed out more and is like, oh, I like, now I like completely give people credit that, you know, do commercials and everything, like more
Right.
power to you. You know, you can have a financial life while still being a creative person. But most people, like when you're starting out, at least you have to say yes to everything because
Yeah.
you got to have a body of work, even if it's
I agree with that. I think the reason I'm connecting with that now is at this point of my career, even though technically I'm still starting out, I had 2 years of just doing short after short after short.
totally, yeah.
And so it's gotten to the point now where shifting gears into a more like intentional space like that makes sense. But I do feel like if you haven't done anything, you shouldn't be fucking selective because you probably suck too. So you have to have experience to get good at something. Yeah. 10,000 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Like that guy. Well, that brings me to the second thing as well. I know, like you're at a point where you have to be intentional about what you say yes to. But there's a lot of big actors, for example, that'll still say yes to everything once they get big. Usually it's because they're probably not getting the offers they want.
Right.
But I'm not necessarily against that either. Like Malcolm McDowell, you know, who is old now, but he was the main guy in Clockwork Orange.
Okay. Yeah.
British, and he did like Entourage a few years back and had like a classic character, the senior agent who comes back to challenge Ari Gold, right?
Right.
And also that kind of honestly made him hip again in a way, even though Entourage isn't very hip anymore. He got an Amazon TV show like called Mozart in the Jungle, I think.
I've heard of that.
Long story long, he for a while up until he got Entourage, he was doing everything, like crappy little movies, such crap, and like he makes fun of himself all the time. But I don't know, as long as you're trying and doing your best, like things in the industry just change quickly. I feel like I have a hard time telling people to say no to stuff.
Really?
Totally.
If you though, I mean, it also depends on the opportunity, right? But like if
I think
you,
it depends is the obvious thing.
but also I would argue for someone who like is trying to just, you know, hang on to any scrap that they can, is just being more like proactive about it. Like, what can you do? Like, what can you write that's specifically in like the exact lane that you want to be in, you know? Because like if you just play shit roles because you're just trying to get like a legit role, even if it's not even that legit, but you just want to get stuff. If you instead spent the time like writing and directing and like trying to produce shit on your own that is specifically in the voice that you want, then it's like lifestyle design. You're like crafting exactly the kind of shit that you want to be doing.
As far as like artistic voice, if you want to call
Yeah.
it. I was just listening to Howard Stern interview today on a drive with Ben Affleck.
Dude, I just listened to that too.
No shit.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we'll have that commonality now.
Yeah. Let's unpack that shit.
Let's
What'd you
unpack
think?
it because it was much more interesting than I thought it was going to be. I thought it could have gone either way, really. I thought because Ben Affleck's like a huge celebrity that maybe Howard Stern would kind of suck up to him. And he doesn't do that many interviews, it seems like, too.
Right.
And I thought maybe he was going to just kind of stay surface and talk about like his
No,
relationship.
yeah, but he was real. He
Affleck was
really got deep.
real and like impassioned and fiery. And like the guy, he even comes off in public to me as kind of just like a little bit of just like, it's obvious, like a jock, chill
Right.
dude that kind of, is I don't know how to describe it, but he ended up coming off in the interview to me as someone who's obviously super just like thoughtful and intense and creative and like just the guy is passionate. The guy's freaking passionate. He talks a lot.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You could also tell that he's weathered. He's been through a bunch of
His
shit.
voice sounded weathered for
Dude,
sure.
he was fucking
That was a husky voice. You sound like Alec Baldwin now.
bro, for real. I after listening to that interview, I have more respect for him as like an artist.
Yeah.
I did at Argo at his peak.
Sure.
Because at Argo too, he even talked about that, about how he was trying to suck up to people and like really get the award and everything. But the thing that I respect,
sorry to just side note that.
I
think it's kind of obvious to some people, you and I, for instance, that would have been a smart career move for him. He just came off of being kind of like the heartthrob, like kind of funny, kind of cool guy that does these big budget like rom-coms almost.
Right.
And then he goes and he describes like he couldn't get the roles he wanted creatively. So he went and directed his own thing. He directed a few things and Argo really landed. It hit home.
Yeah.
And he was up for the Academy Awards. So he did what you just pointed out. He reinvented himself in that way because he wasn't getting the acting roles he wanted. But he still had to like, that felt a little when he got Argo, like more to your point, like he was making a career move to be taken seriously. Yeah. And I didn't love Argo either.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. I humbly did not.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, I dug it, but I know that, but whatever you think. At the time, I was also like in high school or something. I need to rewatch the movie and see.
Underdeveloped opinion there, of course.
Yeah.
Unlike myself, who is older and much more mature.
Yes, of course.
Taste, yes.
But yeah, I totally see what you mean about how, it, to me, it's like once you've gotten to a certain age, what are you, 26?
28?
28. Once you get to a certain age, old motherfucker,
right?
You really realize that, people aren't perfect. And before you see this like image of someone and it's like, oh, fuck, that's Ben Affleck. Totally. He's on his shit, like all this, whatever. But after you lived a certain amount of life, you realize that like there's so much shit that just happens and everyone, it doesn't matter who the fuck you are. Yeah. And so it feels to me like he's now in this position where he's been through so much shit. Everyone shit on him in the entire industry and he's still fucking there. He's still like, he's not completely gone off the rails. It feels like a very, post Batman era for him.
He seems like he's been, and Matthew McConaughey seems like he's in this boat a little bit as well. Of course, it's just they're liberated. They're like kind of at a point where like
that was McConaughey.
Take it or leave it. Yeah, they now their intention is like to just live the most good life, kind
of. And being authentic about
stuff. It. Yeah, be authentic and just like have a good life. And it's taken a lot of experiences, and I'm sure having families and stuff for them to like get grounded and be like, okay, just making, I don't know, just making certain stuff doesn't matter.
The only actor that I feel now, like it's so hard now to be an actor and to still like have a private life and to like everything with social media. I feel like Leo DiCaprio is the only one left standing who still has that like old Hollywood kind of mystique about him that is so perfectly tailored. And I saw like an early interview with him where he was talking about how that was his intention. Like he had specifically people that he looked up to, like the old Hollywood actors that had this kind of level of anonymity. And he was like, he wants to live that. And what's that?
Well, yeah, he wanted to retain that. Sorry.
He wanted to retain that. Yeah. And so but you need to be so like specific as to that's your intentionality. But I think we're now getting to the era where we all realize that that's kind of bullshit. Like there's some level of bullshit to that, and it's like, and I think that that's good. I think it's good for people to be really authentic. And
Right.
if you're going through some shit, talk about it. Like Billie Eilish, I also listened to her Howard Stern interview, and she was talking about how she literally threw up before her SNL hosting appearance that she just did. And it's like, I think that's helpful for people,
I agree.
way that celebrity mystique, and it's like we're all human beings.
Was that Billie Eilish interview definitely worth listening to, by the way?
Yeah, highly recommend.
As good as the Ben Affleck one?
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. They're both real, man. It's good.
Yeah, it's fun when they're real. I love what they said about like Robin Williams too and stuff. They're talking about that at the beginning. Yeah, about how insecure he was. And Ben Affleck points out, like, which is kind of an obvious point. He's like, of course he was insecure. Like, actors were all insecure on one level. The amount of like, auditions, 90210 auditions I went up for, and Mickey Mouse auditions for like the first 10 years of my career. And just, they don't even let you finish your second scene because they're like, oh, you're just not right for the part.
Right.
Like, of course. And actually at that point, I'm fortunate enough to be like, I heard that and I was like, I'm probably a lot more confident at this point in myself than they were when they were coming up and stuff.
True, bro. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to see people's stories at your age at this point, because now it's like when you think of Ben Affleck, you just think of Ben Affleck now. But there was a 28-year-old version of Ben Affleck, and even when he got the Oscar, I don't know how old he was for that, probably like 32 or some shit. He talked about how like insecure he felt and how he felt like he didn't belong there. But going back to like being weathered in this industry, something that I've really felt, I'm curious to hear like your experience. It feels to me like you have this expectation starting out, right? Like you come here to LA or whatever, like you grew up here, but you start out and you have this expectation as to like, how much is it going to take to get to that level? That's like the dream. And you wildly underestimate how hard it's going to be or how long it's going to take. And then it's like you bump up against that expectation. And then you have to reframe the expectation to be like, okay, no, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to do.
Yeah.
That's been me. I've had to reframe my expectation probably like 15, 20 times to this point. But that has then allowed me to continue to progress. And now, and also, it's hard in the moment, but once you do make it, you realize that that's where all the meaning comes from. Because if you would have made it at like 19 or whatever, then you wouldn't have the same level of appreciation as you do now.
100%. Yeah, that definitely see where people are coming from when they say that kind of coming up against adversity is helpful, and Affleck, right? He pointed out, he's like, I'm actually so thankful for those really dark times and everything when I was getting ripped to shreds by people and studios were paying me to not be in their movies just to, give me the movies that I had the rights to. And he's like, because when I was successful, I wasn't really learning that much. I was just, try this or try that. But then it was when I was at my lowest point where I was like, oh, I got to reinvent myself.
Yes.
And he came away with this whole new toolkit and profile to be able to do stuff. No, what you just described too is like one step forward, two steps back. Kind of, I think it's always good, obviously, to keep those original dreams you had.
Right.
And like, you just never know when something's going to reawaken that and everything. But totally like what you described, like in the same way for me, it was like, I started off, I thought theater was so cool. And then I was like, okay, I don't know if that's the most fulfilling. Actually, a lot of the theater actors that I saw were like not very good and stuff. And those same actors, when they did film, were like great. But there was something about doing plays that was like, man, these people are just kind of going through it like a dance. They're not really in them. They're not really trying to create the realness of the moment of what's on the page. Like in real life, they're kind of just doing it in a caricature type way or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's a general
bit of distance from the audience. So you do need to be a little bit bigger.
Project it. But no, I don't think so, because then I've seen really good theater actors Liev Schreiber being one of them, the guy that does Ray Donovan.
Yeah. Where'd you
He-
see him?
I saw him in just in play on Broadway, and it was this classic French play, Les Mis, or not Les Mis. It was this romantic one, or there's all Les Dangerous Liaisons. Good God, that was tough to get out.
Yeah.
And it was him and Janet McTeer, I think, who's this legendary female actress, and they're both legends. And I thought Liev Schreiber was kind of just this cool guy that, you know, like whatever,
Right.
an actor.
That's a shtick.
Turns out, dude, he's a fucking character actor, as like a lot of these celebrities are. When you know, you look behind what they really have accomplished, they're like character actors. Liev Schreiber played this like old timey aristocrat and everything, and he did so believably, and he was a fencer, and it was just a really distinct part. It was cool to see. But other than that, like a lot of, and I saw Jeremy Irons in a play in England, Long Day's Journey into Night, this classic American play.
Yeah.
With Neil.
Yeah.
As you majored in theater, so you know,
course.
yeah, more than me probably. But I like started there, and then I was like, oh yeah, I want to be like one of those New York actors that does like, you know, like
Like a
Law and Order.
Yeah.
Serious actor that does Law and Order and plays and, you know, all this stuff, this gritty stuff. And but then I saw that when I was there and stuff, a lot of those people actually, they, you know, are writers, and writing is where, you know, the real richness comes from and stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I saw that a lot of these writers, you know, loved comedy and doing stand-up and stuff. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to do that. That kind of took my fancy next. And then through doing comedy, I rediscovered like, oh my gosh, if you do this, I can infuse this in the good serious stuff. And now that I think about it, a lot of like the leading actors that I see and stuff, they're really good with comedy too. And so I went kind of back to that, and they all kind of lend themselves to each other. And like you said, the finish line kind of keeps redefining itself.
Yeah. But that's good though. Like fully going after one thing that you think that you want, and then you chisel away a little more at the thing that you actually want. And then you just like Gary Vee talks about how, like, if you don't know what you want to do in life, give yourself 2 years, every 6 month, like period, go after something in full force. Like if you're like, oh, I think it would be cool to be a chef, just like fully be in it for 6 months and see how it feels. And if you don't like that, then pivot. And it's like, a lot of people don't give themselves that opportunity though. A lot of people, they just kind of fall into the job thing, which is the saddest thing to me. That's like the greatest tragedy, I feel like, is you have a dream. Most people's dreams end after college, you know, because they have this, they like major in English and they like want to write a novel, and then they stop and they never finish a novel. And then they go off into like their first job just to make money. And that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah. Funny, my brother was just talking about that as well. And I have a lot of friends from college that went into business after. And the funny thing I'm seeing is like, it was tough for them at first because they weren't making that much money, and they're at these like corporate plantations, we like to say. And but 5 years later, 6 years later, like they have equity in these companies, they're being bought out. They learned a lot. They know about like markets and economy, stuff that like real people that like care about money a lot, like have to know about.
Right.
And like I'm kind of now like, damn, dude, it's super interesting. They didn't know what they necessarily wanted to do, but they started somewhere, and they kept kind of bouncing around and doing this stuff and doing that, and they got, you know, fortunate in some ways. Stuff went their way randomly. But so I've come to like not completely feel bad, obviously, for like friends from college that like went into business and they're like, oh, this isn't necessarily my passion, but I just have to do it to make money. Like that is, you know, it could be good too.
I see that. You pick up skills in whatever you're doing too. And also, however I might feel about like my lifestyle design doesn't have to be the way that like everyone should feel too. And that's something that I had to learn like pretty recently too, is like some people just want to live, you know, a chill life and like have a job and a family. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
I was
in San Diego this morning, seeing these surfers like early morning. And San Diego is beautiful.
Right.
And I was like in Encinitas in particular, and I'm seeing like these old timers as in like, they're in their 60s probably, shred surfing. I don't see them now too often. And they're probably going to work like right after it. And like they have their little life kind of nailed. They probably work hard. They have a family they support. And then they have their hobbies that they love and they're like super passionate about.
Right.
How much more like progression do you necessarily need in that? Like they've kind of mastered their little thing. I give them a lot of credit. And I'm sure even no matter what you're doing job wise and stuff, my advice for myself would be always find how you can get the greatest potential out of yourself in all those different ways and always look to be doing more and more and more and more and more. Even I don't think you should retire.
I agree. I think it's a feeling of like discomfort or comfort in yourself. Like if you're in a situation, if you're at a job that you feel is a dead end job and you think that you want to do something different or you can do better, that's the situation that you should shift gears. But if you're going surfing every morning and you have this job that's like pretty good and you're happy with your life, then you've found your thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I aspire to do that on a lot of different levels.
That's good, bro. You're definitely more casting a wider net in terms of like finding a lifestyle that you really love and that you really vibe with. And that's a little more balanced compared to like my situation. I think there are pros and cons to both. It's really good. It's a good reminder for me talking to you, like you can also have these other things and like be doing this other shit. It doesn't have to be like 100% filmmaking, whatever. But yeah, I'm hoping I'll balance out a little bit, in a few years. So we'll see.
Totally. It's tough in Hollywood proper. You live in like real Hollywood.
That's also true. You've got a little space.
Yeah, I got a little nugget by the coast. It's its own little world, kind of. I hang out with a lot of people that aren't actors, aren't in the film business and stuff.
Right.
And it's got its pros and cons. But yeah, I think ideally, if you have a good lifestyle, it can set you up to be doing your creative.
Also true.
Yeah.
And if you're writing stuff, you gotta have the life experience too, to like lead into that and actually be able to write good shit. You touched on how your friends are like learning business skills, and we can pivot a little bit into like the business side of filmmaking. I'm currently like knee deep in that, putting business plans together, finding out like the waterfall after you make a film and like how, the percentages can be divided up and there's investors and all that stuff. Is that a world that you've looked into at all? I know you've got the pilot that you're looking to sell, but beyond that, have you ever, or are you interested in like diving deeper into that?
100%. I am, because I think it's important for a lot of people to know. And most people in the film business are inept when it comes to financial literacy.
Yeah. They get screwed over too. That's the biggest thing. Like you hear all the horror stories about filmmakers who like distributors, the way that they write the contracts, like the default contract fucks over filmmakers. It's like essentially these contracts state that they can use like whatever budget they need to in order to promote the film. But what comes with that is like, if there's not a ceiling to that, then the filmmaker isn't going to see anything, because like they can just hide everything under that guise.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. What was I going to say on business plan thing? Well, my buddy is like one of my really good friends. He was a friend of a friend, and he just moved to LA a couple months ago. He works for Aperture, which is a huge film financing company. And cool. I've even learned a little bit from him, just like when he's worked from home at our place a little bit. I used to think it was just bullshit that he really like financed these companies. Dude, he's killing it. Like he's actually going to get a producer credit, I think, on this one. Shit. They work with A24 a lot.
Yeah.
And like he just, the stuff he tells me, he's like, he'll get these directors that come to him, to his company and stuff. And his company is mostly just business people.
Right.
Like the real.
Exactly. They don't give a fuck, really.
Right. They don't give a fuck. They think it's fun to be in Hollywood with the flash and stuff and working on, everyone wants to work on movies potentially, but like, they're just like, dude, they worked with some of these big wigs and they were so idiotic, and they just don't know about how to sell stuff to people. And
Wow. And
it's
these were like high level directors.
very, very big actors that are becoming directors and stuff. And my buddy
Uh,
Ryan was like, dude, this guy is incompetent, absolutely incompetent. And just because they've been, I think we talked about it last week, they've been in that Hollywood bubble for so long where people just suck up to them, because if you're around someone famous, who knows what can happen to you? You know, anything can happen when you're around someone famous.
right.
And so no one wants to ruffle their feathers. But therefore, they don't have to keep evolving because they get said yes to all the time. They don't have to like re-question. And so they come to these financial people who are, you know, just cut and dry.
Yeah.
And they just end up sounding like complete assholes.
Damn.
So, but other than that, I'm super interested because I think financial literacy is freedom.
I
And
agree.
I'm not even opposed to being some, like I read Bob Iger's book, Ride of a Lifetime.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff about him being an executive, like sounded really, really cool to me. And I don't think it's easy, but I someday, you never know, might find myself drifting into that area too. But yeah, what you said about business plans and stuff, bro, we just actually finished, we got our business plan back, our first draft from someone we hired to do it for Value Mentality,
Sick.
because we're trying to raise $10,000 at least
Great.
now. Yeah, now that we're like actually going to be doing the fashion side of it rather than just proof of concept.
Dude,
yeah,
I want to hear like insights from you, because 10K is the amount that we made my first feature for. And going through that experience, I realized that it is very much like the bare bones of what you need in order to make a quality feature film. 10K.
well, so I'm wondering with you, something that came up is, how did you pay back, if you did at all, pay back investors, which I assume are friends and family first round? Is it, do you take a loan, or do you just give them equity, which I'm not sure if that applies to films?
I don't know how, because I wasn't a producer on that project, I was like a director for hire, essentially. I don't know. It was like this girl's family and friend. She produced it and wrote and starred in it. But yeah, I'm not sure how she handled that. But what I've heard is like in a typical scenario, and this is how we're going to structure it, is you get the funds from an investor or a few investors. You then first pay them back 125%.
Okay.
And after that, it's then 50-50. One pool is the investor pool, which you don't touch. Then the other 50% of the remaining profits are just the producers, and they are able to do whatever they want to with that half of the profit pool. So if you only have $10,000, you can, instead of giving people money up front, which isn't a possibility for a feature at that level, you would then give them like points on the back end, and you give them percentages on the back end. So if I gave like 1% to an actor, for example, the actor would then get 1% of that 50% split, because we're not allowed to touch the investor pool.
Got it. So that's basically like equity, saying that like, hey, based on if the company does well or the film does well,
Right.
you will get a big piece, you know, you'll get a lot of money, maybe.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking that's probably going to be a good route for us to take with the clothing company, like give someone 5%. You don't want to give away too much percentage for sure, but 5% here, 5% there, and $10,000 isn't much in the scheme of things.
I would say the way that we structure these is probably going to be pretty similar.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I'm interested how like risky the clothing business is. Like film business is notoriously risky.
Especially indie filmmaking.
Indie filmmaking, yeah.
Limited release indie filmmaking.
Yeah. Horror helps a little bit, just because audiences gravitate towards like the scariest film or like the best idea, as opposed to like cast. Yeah.
Or Saw. Yeah.
But
take a huge celebrity, you know, if it's interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I'm interested to hear, like, do you know, like, how risky is the clothing business?
It's risky as well. They say for the first round, friends and family investors, the seed investments, to just tell them, hey, you're probably not getting your money back. Just want to say that up front.
Got you.
But I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that with a lot of money. Basically, I'd like to think that our situation is different than other people's. I don't even know if it's an official company yet. We have the trademark, and we have like a business plan written, and we have some revenue too. We have some money that we've made, but until you're past a certain dollar mark, I don't know if you're a real company. But basically, where we're at is, I think as long as we make it, we want it to be a lifestyle brand, because it's Valley mentality. The idea is like embracing a place that's always been made fun of, the Valley. Like, we love it, and if it's the type of thing that like maybe it will kind of catch on because it's real idea. We're not banking on like, hey, our materials are better than anyone else.
Right.
If that were the case, then some Dolce & Gabbana designer would have a huge leg up on us. But this is kind of an idea that we are kind of positioned for, maybe over other people. And so I'm thinking it's actually a slam dunk.
It reminds me a little of, I love the way it sounds. It reminds me a bit of, what is it? Anti-social social club.
Totally. In that there's a message behind the clothing.
Yeah.
Obviously that message was not related to ours whatsoever.
For sure.
Yeah. But in the fact that there is a message. Another one too is like Mad Happy, obviously.
I haven't even heard of Mad Happy.
No way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as into the clothing world as you, but.
Well, now that you mention it, I didn't really know of it until someone told me it was a good reference. They have a message behind their clothing company, which is like that they're trying to value mental health. And it's just their first avenue to kind of explore as a company is clothing. And so they just kind of have really good materials, and they're a lot of colors and happy bullshit, who knows. But yeah, look it up if you get a chance. They've got a fun Instagram. They blew up, and now they do all these collaborations with like Larry David.
Sick.
Yeah, like they made like a Mocha Joe thing and Latte Larry from the news. Yeah, and all this little stuff. I'm like, hey, good for them, but yeah,
I hear the resentment in your tone.
Yeah, good for them, but we're better.
Good for them, but fuck them.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Ours, we're gonna do like a vintage kind of look.
Yeah.
Kind of, and we've spoken about it, but like our model is kind of like the Cliff Booth stuntman from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. We want to do like vintage Hawaiian shirts with like a patch that say Valley mentality on it, because we are kind of, the blue collar underdog story. Hollywood is where like the old school actors used to be.
Right.
The Valley, we want to celebrate where like the stunt man would go afterward and go home to his like pit bull that loved him,
Totally.
Yeah. Yes. So we're fucking, I think as long as we do what we say we're going to do and like get, a grassroots thing out there sort of, and we're doing e-commerce, it's going to be all online. Cool. But like I have this idea to like get an ice cream truck, customize it. This is in our second round, and go around and sell, pop-up style in person. Like we're super, man, I'm so excited.
Fuck yeah, man. It's great to have those different like publicity stunts and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a party,
Right.
With merchandise and stuff.
Dude, you got to be so creative. I love, like, for a horror too, it works really well to like come up with all these different stunts or like ways of getting your stuff out there. Like
a haunted house.
They did that for the It reboot. And also for The Ring, they set up this whole thing like in the lobby of a hotel. Like they hid the girl behind something and then she just crawls out and shit.
No way.
Yeah, dude, it was great. It was like,
first of all, that's the creepiest thing I've ever heard, because The Ring was so scary.
The Ring was horrifying, dude.
It was that was, yeah, that's a good way to put it. It was horrifying. It was like a deep, like dark horror.
Yeah, I also think movies that we had when we were like young kids are probably going to be the scariest, because like it was at that time that we were like, so vulnerable and shit. Like I consider The Ring scarier than like, The Exorcist, which is probably not a
Oh,
popular.
yeah. It's not a hot no, that's not a hot take. I'd say just because the Exorcist is so old, some of the
It's a
stuff.
little dated. It definitely makes me uncomfortable, but I
I
wouldn't
I
say
I love it as a movie, The Exorcist, and I think it is definitely still horrifying, actually. But it's just like I think the guy was nominated for the Academy Award. It's just a good movie.
yeah.
But I cut you off. Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
no, no, all good. I'm curious, how do you feel like, yes, friends and family likely going to be the first round
Yeah.
of these things.
For
How
sure.
do you feel about like approaching from that angle? Because for me, I have, and like no shade, like if that's
Yeah.
how you guys go about it, but I've just like had a harder time doing that. And I think it's like a chip on my shoulder where I want it to come from like the merit of me, where
Yeah.
like people want to invest. And I think the way that they get it out of me is like because they have the possibility to make like a ton of money, even though it's a risky investment. That's what I look for, as opposed to like my friends and family might feel obligated or whatever. So our strategy is we're kind of looking for like referrals, like second tier. So like if we might know someone who knows someone, then
Yeah.
that's kind of our target.
That sounds interesting just because you've done it before. I haven't done it before ever.
I haven't done it before either.
Oh,
It's
right.
just that I was a director for hire. So she had already gotten, and the way she did it was friends and family. So I don't fucking know. I've never done it like successfully.
I definitely was thinking the same thing as you, bro. Like I feel embarrassed going to my grandmother asking for but then again, like I was at dinner with her the other day and I brought it up.
You pitching your brand?
Yes. Well, she loves the ideas so much because they also live in the valley and stuff. She literally brings up every time like how much she loves it. I was like, no, grow up, Duke. I'm not gonna like shy away just because that like had a stigma in the past. Like it's because I genuinely like believe in it. And then also it is my first thing. It's not like I've done it a lot. I think it, and if
Yeah.
it was a really expensive movie and stuff too, not that yours is, but like a huge movie, I mean, I wouldn't expect that of them. And for this thing in particular, like with my uncle, I know that he might want to have skin in this company because
Right.
like it pertains to him. Like, they invented the value mentality.
Right. And bro, that's like a different thing too. Like
Different.
because your grandmother and your uncle are like invested in the idea
Like,
itself. And it's not just because like, oh, Duke wants to do this thing. Like
totally.
we love Duke. They
Yeah.
don't just love Duke. They also love like the product. And that's
Yeah. It stands for itself a little bit. Yeah. I don't know how it'd be differently, but now that I literally just got this business plan done, it is instilling all sorts of confidence. I feel like with a good business, you can go to other people and you don't have to feel guilty. Like you actually have the numbers. Like, so
It's
people know
specific, dude. And that's straight up what I'm working on like right now.
Yeah.
Numbers. Because if I have specific like projected ROIs, that's a different thing than me like approaching someone being like, yo, we're making this scary movie, give us money. It's like, nah, here's a percentage of what you could get back. Here's how much you'd get out of it. Like, here's our experience.
It becomes less personal. It's more of just like a cut and dry.
Yeah. And the ones that want it are going to line up. And the ones that don't, you're just not going to vibe. So it's like, and also I think it's a numbers game too.
Yeah.
You're going to find the right people. The whole numbers game thing that's worked really well for me, like at least finding crew and cast and stuff for my stuff, because since we're at such an early stage, and like everyone's basically been working for food, like Crafty, just because that's the situation.
Right.
It is such like a high kind of turnover in terms of like me finding people who want to come on, And so I found like the numbers game has been the best thing for me. Like that's the best mentality to have with that, and then the ones that are like super about it, that really vibe with the energy of the whole thing you're trying to do, those are the homies that are going to stick around, and you get to make a lot of shit together.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm curious, the business plan, are you coming up with the numbers projecting, or are you?
I am coming up with the numbers.
Whoa, bro.
I mean, I'm not great at math, but I'm trying. It's I'm looking at I'm basically comparing 3 different films that have similar budgets and have like numbers that we could potentially make And I'm looking at all those and I'm then like using them as the reference point to construct this thing.
Are those numbers readily available out there?
Nope. Fuck
Exactly.
no.
Exactly.
Fuck no. Nope.
So what are
And
you doing?
that's what?
So
What's
what are you doing to obtain them?
Well, I mean, you can find a few numbers. The numbers you can find are worldwide, like domestic and foreign, and budget occasionally. But other than that, the ones you can't find are like how much they spent on P&A, which is like the ads that they put out. You can't find numbers on, home entertainment, like how much they did for DVDs. I feel like we're going to have to probably pay for a service where they can find those numbers for you. They just have like this database of all the information. And there are a couple services like that.
That you've already found?
Yeah, I found them. I haven't paid for them yet. They're, I don't know, like $300-500, but it might be necessary to get all the numbers we need.
Yeah, I encountered the same thing as you, except maybe more extreme for our thing. And I spoke with a couple business buddies, like one of them does marketing at Google and stuff. And he's like, oh, I could get that information for you. Kind of like casually. And I was like, I don't even know what to ask for. There's so many things down the list. So I eventually just went on Fiverr, the freelance company, and
Yeah.
someone for cheap, super cheap, like $350. And I split it with my partner. And he just came up with the whole financial forecasting for us.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Fiverr is something that I haven't even considered. Dude, I've gotten so much shit off of Fiverr. Like I've used Fiverr for so much. It's great, dude. Super cheap.
I'm hooked because this works so incredibly.
Yeah.
Damn, what else have you used it for?
Dude, I used it to find that like accountability coach that I told you. That was Fiverr.
That is hilarious for one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just some OG on Fiverr that's like, I'll wake you up and like force you to do your deadlines.
Oh, it's fucking great.
Oh my gosh. Was that it?
No, I've done a bunch. I
wonder if there'd be anyone. I've always wanted someone to film me surfing. Always. And I say, like, once I get successful, I'm gonna hire someone to follow me around and film me surfing.
That'd be dope.
I was
Have
like,
you thought about like GoPros and shit too?
It's not the same.
Okay.
It's not the same. Because it's on your stinking surfboard and it's like a weird angle. I want the look.
Would they be on the shore? Would they be on the
shore, posting up, watching? And hey, best case scenario, if it ever gets interesting, maybe someone in the water filming me as well.
Yeah. Get that B cam.
Want to do it? You want to do it?
Nah, bro. That's a Fiverr. That's a Fiverr.
That's a Fiverr. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, that's hilarious. I'm envisioning it too. Like if you get the wide lens cam and they're out there on the shore, if you had that B cam, you just see some dude like in the water with you.
Yeah. What they do have right now, I must say, I got so excited when I saw this camera that has a tracking device on it and it stays on the beach and it films you by itself.
Yo, that's crazy.
Very expensive. It's like $1,000 and they break down. When I really researched it, they break down all of it. It's too early on in the development stages of it, but hey, someday.
I feel like too, you could probably find some kids at like Chapman or whatever, or like USC, just pay them like a couple $100 or some shit and they'd be down.
Yeah, I want to be practical right now because I want it to be, then I want them to be like my slave, my film slave, basically.
Yeah. You can just call them up whenever.
Yeah.
On deck.
That's how you get good at sports. Like I went to a whole nother level and people ask like, how did you get really good at surfing? When I was like 13, my dad would film me like all the time. I would beg him to film me. Like,
right.
It was not easy.
And you'd watch the footage and you'd
watch it backwards and back and study it and compare it to the pros.
That's interesting, dude. That's what they do in like professional football and shit too.
Exactly.
For me, my dream is to have a very similar thing. I want a videographer to film me and cut it and put it out like as daily vlogs of what I do like as a director and producer every day. Right. Because I think if someone had their camera on me, like I'm same shit, bro, like the whole slave thing, right? If I had someone who was like filming me, I don't know, like 16 hours out of the day, I would get so much more shit done knowing that it would be like posted
Hilarious.
that night. So
The
yeah.
pressure that comes from you being on the spot.
Yeah, dude. That would be really helpful. That's the whole accountability thing. Like, I think
Maybe we just
overall,
both need reality shows.
I
The
guess
podcast is turning
overall,
into a reality show.
we'll do some crossover episodes.
Yes,
I'll
exactly.
have my guy right here. You'll have yours back there.
Super meta, like as we're filming it. Like
Yeah, we just come together like once a week.
exactly. Just got to make sure the camera's like not in the shot somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
Red flag number 1.
Right. But yeah, I definitely want that like Gary V kind of vibe. It would be fun.
I don't know what Gary Vee is, but it sounds interesting.
Dude, you got to check out Gary V. He's this like motivational kind of like, he has a company in New York and he puts out these vlogs. It's dope.
Gary Vee, I'm in.
Yeah.
Dude, you know what I just listened to, speaking of motivational stuff, is wait, first of all, side note, I asked someone else, speaking of which, literally like who did a nonprofit, how did he raise money from that first round? Did he do loans or did he do equity? And I just threw out there as well, because it's a nonprofit, charity style, where they friends and family just gave them money, and they did do charity style. And I'm just like, oh, how convenient.
Fuck, dude. Yeah, that, bro, loans scare the shit out of me at this level.
Me too.
And like, I would way rather go the investor route and just play the numbers.
Any smart investor probably that knows us would be the same way too. They probably wouldn't want to be like, we don't want you to like turn into an indentured servitude.
Dude, a lot of filmmakers also just run up a credit card, which is like the worst move that you could do.
Interesting.
Put, 16, 20K for their first feature on a credit card. And bro, it's just because they don't know how to
destroy their credit.
What's that?
They just destroy their credit.
Dude, they can't pay it back then and they're fucked. And that's the only film they ever make. It's like bad.
Not the life I want to live. Oh, so what I listen to, you might take to this, especially for like investing and stuff, is a podcast on NPR called How I Made This, or How I Built This.
Okay. I've heard of it, but I'll check it out.
His name is like Guy Sanchez or something. And I listened to 3, because a friend sent it over based on like fashion and getting clothing company going, from Damon Johns, who's on Shark Tank, how he started his clothing.
Right. Is this the guy that like didn't he make like Twitter or something?
No.
Okay.
That's similar but different.
LinkedIn.
Damon Johns?
No, not Damon Johns. No, the guy, the
podcast
guy. Yeah.
Oh, I was wondering, is he like famous for something else? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I heard like a couple episodes, because I think I heard the Damon John one. When he said that, I was like, yeah. Like, I think the guy like created LinkedIn.
That's freaking sick if that's the case. Yeah, because the guy sounds so knowledgeable. Like, he just knows the questions to ask these entrepreneurs. Right. And the other episodes were one with the founder of Lululemon, Chip Wilson, I think, and who's kind of in some hot water in general for what he said. But man, hearing about Lululemon and like how he was financially independent at first and what his goals were and stuff were just kind of no easy feat. And then the other one is from this clothing company, Outdoor Voices, the head of it named Tyler Haney. And have you heard of Outdoor Voices?
No.
It's like one of the first athletic leisure companies, started in Austin, and now Ty Haney's in a lot of hot water. She kind of got tossed out of her own company. And I saw the company kind of start like 8 years ago or whatever. I followed them from the very beginning. She was like a great leader and stuff. And this guy just asks her the most like intense questions on like, okay, so how did you get, clothing orders at manufacturers when you had no money? Because a lot of these manufacturers, they don't do small orders for test samples. Like, these are big manufacturers. How did you just go in and test out your clothing there? And she's like, well, and it seemed like she's not used to getting asked those questions, for one. But two, she's like, well, I went to a lot of these manufacturers and was just so persistent that when they weren't doing big orders for like other designer companies, they just kind of, they wanted to fulfill all their time at the company. And so they would just take me on for an hour. And I'm hearing that. And I'm like, that's hard for me to believe because I'm going through the same thing. That's what a lot of the money we raised for is. Like, we already made clothes that were basically, we didn't have to raise the money. We did it through Printful, which is like a drop ship thing. They just make the clothes. But for this new round, we're going to like actually go to a great manufacturing designer, and it's going to cost money. It's not easy.
Yeah. Damn, dude. Yeah, no, I'll definitely check it out. I'm curious. You mentioned that you got the trademark. Walk me through that process, because I'm currently midway in the thing of like, they contested the first version that I put, like I'm doing it for my production company. Didn't go through. And I know the reason is like, I'm submitting it again, in a few days. And I know that it's because I didn't put in like proof of actually selling something, or like there wasn't like a physical product. Did you have like a physical shirt or something that you use as the example, or how do you go about
that? Ours got rejected first for Value Mentality. And then I spoke to a lawyer. I actually got a trademark lawyer, looked him up on Google. I can recommend him if you need someone.
Please. Yeah. Give me him. Give me his name.
Oh, he'll love that. He just asked me to write a Google review for him literally just now. And so I will get, his name's Eric Hartman. He's great. So easy. It's like $200. Pay that. And then they have a structure in place so that they can just do everything for you. And like, they do this all the time. So he'll look at it. He'll look at your current process and order, and he'll tell you like what's wrong with it. And then he'll just like tell you how to fix it.
Cool.
Yeah. You'll be saved, dude. You should definitely do that. As long as you have a little money to throw at them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So funny. I'll send you that stuff after. Yeah, we did it. It was a huge achievement to get the trademark, because Value Mentality is kind of a broad thing.
Did he like take care of everything, or did you have to submit in like extra stuff or whatever?
Nope. Afterwards, he says like, hey, if he has a couple things that he asks you to send over, it'll be free of charge. And then like the next round, if he has to do one more thing or whatever, like it's like, just $100 more or something. It's so simple. But no, bro, after you do the first thing, he just sends you stuff to update you, but you don't have to respond like ever.
Fuck yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah. It's everything I wish I knew at the time. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Send me that shit, dude. I'd love that.
I got you. Wait, so do you already have a production company, or like, are you doing this or what's the background?
We're getting our LLC very soon, which will make us a legit production company. I think the trademark isn't as necessary, but I kind of wanted like an extra protection just in case or whatever.
Who's us and what's the point of the production company?
It's me and the other head. His name's Ken. Ken Rudnick, he's a good buddy of mine, and we've been collabing on these like horror shorts for a while. And we did like a feature together this last year. And
the one I was in? No.
What's that?
Was it the one I was in? No.
There's another one. Yeah. But yeah, bro. He is a writer producer. I'm like writer director. And so the dream is like, if this really takes off, he's better at like the creative producing side of stuff. Whereas me, like my brain works best in like the directing side of it. It's just like a different way of thinking. Yeah.
Very cool. And so you guys will make this production company. Do you have to make a production company, or is it kind of like what brought you to
not necessarily. Like the feature that I'm doing with Sophia is we're going to make that clean. Like it's essentially, we're going to, like when you make a feature, you have to have 2 LLCs. So one LLC is like and this is just to protect you from being sued for anything. So like the first LLC is the head. It's like either the production company, or it's like just something that you create for this one specific movie. and then you create a second LLC underneath that, which is like specifically the title of the movie. And so if you have those two in place, your corporations can be sued, the LLCs can be sued, but you as an individual can't be fucked over. So that's the mentality behind that.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. Lots of business shit. But yeah, I mean, a lot of this too involves a lawyer. Like when you are making a film, the two upfront things you need like to put out before, getting funds or whatever are the amount for the LLC. And then you need to put up some for a lawyer too, because otherwise you're just going to get more fucked down the line. Like the way that I think about it, I think I told you this before. It's like if you're driving a car and your engine light pops on and you just ignore it and ignore it and ignore it because you don't want to pay the like $200 or whatever to get it fixed.
How that goes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how
Yeah.
my last car went. Never
How it feels. Right. On all fronts. Exactly. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm getting tired of all this business talk.
I feel you, bro. It's not the way that both of our brains like work naturally, but unfortunately it's a part of like
paintbrush. Give me a piano, damn it. I'm an artist. Exactly. I'm not a mathematician.
Yeah, the dream is one day to just be doing the creative.
I'm kidding. But yeah. Certainly. How's wow. So you're literally doing that right now. I'll send you the Eric Hartman stuff.
Great.
And then what else is going on, man?
Dude, I am currently, man, I'm trying to ship out all of these edits. I have like eight shorts that are on deck that have been shot, but just not edited. And editing is like kind of rough for me. Like it's harder to just get them out because it's like, and I've used an editor for a couple of them, but yeah.
That's sick. You edit those shorts?
I edit a bunch of them. I've had an editor come on for maybe like 5, but yeah, for the most part.
What? Damn, I'm so jealous that you have that capability because I want to eventually.
You don't? Have you tried?
I used to edit my surf movies when I was in high school, but other than that, and I edit myself tapes. That's not much editing, but like I'm pretty qualified with iMovie. What?
Do you slate?
Of course.
Do you do a new slate every time?
For each tape, but like usually you have 2 takes, then you just got 1 slate. Right. Hey, I'm Duke and Patton. I'm 6 foot from Los Angeles.
Perfect. Always got to put that
a little snazzy wink. Sure. Got to nail them.
You have the backdrop.
Yeah, I just have a classic like blue like circle thing.
Perfect.
And I would crop in.
That's what you need. How many auditions do you do on the daily?
Usually not more than 1 a day, but of course.
Yeah, on the daily.
Right. Yeah. On that daily grind of auditions, they usually all come in at once, bro. Like, and then when you have the side job too, like it does get to be a lot. These are successful actor problems, because people want those problems. But yeah. So sometimes it'll be like you got to do 2 in 1 day, and then like maybe you do the 3rd one like the next day or something. But like I have one right now actually for like a Disney show or something, and I think it's the 2nd time I'm auditioning for it actually.
Wow.
Superhero type thing,
dude. That would be dope.
It would be so dope.
Like a Disney Channel movie?
No, it's actually for a TV show I think called Danger Force, which I think I've heard of. But like the parts are always wrong for me. It sucks.
What's this?
Yeah. So first of all, the last one that I got was like I was supposed to play a hot dog mascot at like a restaurant. Yeah, like you couldn't rationalize that in any way for me. A hot dog mascot, and it was funny. Like I think there's even like a laugh track on it. It's like a sitcom, and I did like 2 or 3 scenes. And when you audition for this stuff, the scenes are generally short, and they're very like there's a clear punchline, and like so like for this type of thing, like someone had to like blast from the future, and they come in, and I'm like it cuts to me, and I'm like I'm a hot dog mascot. And like I'm supposed to be like a king hot dog. So I have like a crown on and I'm like looking at my phone and I'm like supposed to be chewing a hot dog, even though I am a hot dog. It's like ironic. And I'm and I'm like looking at my phone and then they come in and I like choke. Like, they ask me like, hey, like what's going on? And I'm just like, and I have to like, and then I end up being cocky. I'm a cocky mascot. And so I talk shit too. Wish I got it, frankly. But like, why the fuck would they pick me for that? It's
Dude.
not.
Yeah, now that's like your type.
No.
Just hot dog mascots. Bro, my question is like, who would even write that shit? Like, from a writer's standpoint, what writer would be like, oh yeah, this part we're gonna have a hot dog mascot?
Sophia.
I can't ever see myself. I don't know.
No, there's an audience for that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that must be frustrating too, because like, and again, this goes back to the whole thing of like, are you selective or do you take everything that comes your way?
Right.
And it's like, it's a hard balance, bro, because when I was an actor, dude, the thing that I was most insecure about, and I think this is across the board for every actor, because no actor wants to be put in a box. And when you're an actor, it's like your brand. Like,
yeah.
And so it's this one dimension thing. And everyone's always asking, what's your type? And you need a type so that you like can go after certain roles. But still, that whole concept is fucking hard, And if you're not getting the roles that don't line up with what you think you are,
yeah,
tough.
I used to have a lot more trouble with it. Like at acting school, they would do exercises to say, like, what type are you? And it was always so like disingenuous. I felt like, and I always ended up having like a good type where I was very fortunate, but like for some other people, I felt really bad, like that they had to label themselves these certain ways, because at the end of the day, I could play a hot dog guy and I could do it. I'm probably not what the writer had in mind necessarily, but like my spin on it could be hilarious and it could be perfect. Totally. And I think that goes true for everyone. But like for funny enough, like my archetype originally is, probably like Gossip Girl, like teen heartthrob type guy.
Yeah.
First, when I started acting, I did not feel comfortable as that necessarily at all. Right. I felt much more comfortable probably playing like broad characters that were different than my own. And when I had to just kind of be like a cool, suave, romantic guy, like in certain things, I felt so cheesy doing that. And I didn't want to make it authentic.
It's super one-dimensional.
Yeah, it can be. But then since then, I really worked hard at that. I was like, okay, how can I make, because those people have interesting stories too, especially the real people. Like, don't just make it a cheesy, one-dimensional gossip thing. Make it like, what's the real life behind it? And people are always gonna identify with that and appreciate that if you can bring more colors to it, as long as it's called for. And so now it's like, yeah, that's probably, obviously on paper what they would ask me for, and I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, everyone wants the juicy, colorful roles and frankly, dude, that Netflix gig that I got, it was one scene with potential for more in that sitcom. Like that was one of those colorful roles that you do one scene and you get to be really funny. And I played against the type as well. I was supposed to be a gym bro that the girl asks me out, and the main girl, and I tell her that like I have a genital rash, or she says she has a genital rash to try to discourage me. And I'm like, and I tell her that I have a genital rash as well. And then I try to smooth talk her and be like, hey, so what are we thinking for the date? Like, maybe I apply ointment on you, you apply ointment on me. And like,
that's
it
hilarious.
Was so extreme. It was ridiculous. You probably wouldn't have thought of me for that role originally, but it's like those are the roles that like Jeremy Piven got early on when he was able to stand out.
Right.
Rush Hour 2 and stuff is like the clothing guy.
Yeah.
Hitting on Chris Tucker and stuff. It is so funny. And you got to be a character actor. But you do have to shove it down their throats. They're not going to think of you for these roles. You have to shove it.
Also true. And you can really show that in an audition too. When it comes to types that you felt bad for people, there was this guy who was in my acting class who was labeled as the sad clown that no one wants to come to his birthday. That's his type, bro.
That's his type. Like, talk about how mean these teachers are and like not helpful. I don't think that's helpful.
No, it just like breaks your confidence.
I just think there's a more productive way to help an actor out of that, being like, hey, you have this like really funny energy. Like, if I were to say it, I'd be like, in an empowering way, you have this really different energy about you.
Yeah.
Like, everyone like finds it really interesting when you do things that you might not even be aware of and everything. Do you get that? And like, once they kind of recognize that, be like, that's something I think you should lean into for your acting. That might not even be how you really feel. That might not be what you aspire to be like.
Yeah.
You know, but
that guy's now out of the business.
100%. And I don't blame him. Screw them if they tell you like if someone tells me eventually like, hey, let's say I did a 50 Shades of Grey type thing.
Yeah.
Like Jamie Dornan, who just did Belfast. You know, it would be amazing in one sense to just become super successful so that you have access to like a lot of different parts. But then if they try to put me in a box, I'll freaking write something for myself and prove them otherwise. Because I'm a storyteller. I love acting and bringing to light different stories. Even if I'm not exactly right for it, it's my job to figure out how to make that authentic. And that comes from like, it's just for role playing. It's role playing, and then you try. And still, you might not be the right guy for the part, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of studio features that are like kind of diluted because they're trying to go for like the mass audience thing too. I can totally see myself also, if I get super successful, I'm able to do studio stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
If it's not like the same quality of content or exactly like the lane that I want to go, I'll be making my own shit. I think you always have to keep that going.
I think you do. And if it's not that, it's the clothing for me.
Yeah, dude. Surfing, even.
I like restaurants. So it's about living an interesting life.
Yeah, I agree. And it also is interesting how teachers are the ones who are giving you that label, but those teachers are typically like washed up actors who never became successful.
Those were always bad teachers that I saw do that. Yeah. I don't know if that was the same for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I had a bunch of good teachers like the last couple of years, and they don't prescribe to that. They try to enhance.
It's really interesting. The whole concept of acting schools. I think someone would be way more successful if they were a child actor, they lived on sets. Like, that can fuck a lot of people over. But if you actually had like, you know, good parents, whatever, there's a way of doing that where like from the craft perspective, you are going to be so much better and like actually equipped to like do the thing. And it was interesting going to acting school because I see these kids come in who are like wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and they're like, yo, like everyone just wants to be famous, like, to be real. Like, everyone wants to be famous, and they all like, you know, did the high school thing, and then they go into this environment.
They probably love
it too. Yeah. That's probably their like biggest thing. And so they all come in and they look up, me included, look up to all of these teachers as God, basically. Like, they have all the answers, when in reality, they probably got like a master's in drama and never booked a role. And it's like,
how are those people holding the keys to the kingdom? At my school, fortunately, the official drama school I went to, the British kids kind of knew that these teachers were like, you know, they were good facilitators. They were trying their best, but like they were definitely human, very human, you know. Yeah. And the acting school that I really loved, that I was at for 2 years, John Rosenfeld Studios in LA. It's like the only good class I've seen in LA, and I saw a lot of them. The teachers were more just facilitators. They were not guru worship. They were not like profound. They were more into like, you could write your own stuff.
Yeah.
The writer is key, and we're going to try to bring this vision.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. That's and cool. Literally, like, you can do this, you could steal this from them, they could steal this from you, but we all kind of did the same material for a lot of it. And then we would come up with that as a class. Okay, what's the vision here? What did one person do that was good, that resonated with that? Or it sounds like what I imagine you'd identify with too. I tell people it's like working with a director, the time that you don't get to work with a director on set because the director is dealing with so many different things. But in this respect, it's like we were getting to really hone in on what the vision was. Hello. And and then and then they would also like direct us in tons of different ways that made it the best we could do.
Totally, bro. I agree. You know, there was this one teacher that I had that was so like ruthlessly cruel to his students. And I don't think he teaches there anymore. But he had this framed like thing on his wall from Meryl Streep, like because she like did one show with him and she like recommended him in this position. And he was such a dick to all the students because they were like in his domain and he thought he was the shit. And it's only after being removed from that environment do you realize that like he's full of shit. You know?
Yeah, they're so in the wrong to make this creative thing that people are spending so much money to potentially not make any money doing, and these people are just like destroying that experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what I see, that doesn't help at all.
No, I've had to unlearn a lot of the stuff that I learned there.
Yeah.
You too, like with your
Too. I was just psyched out after like the bad acting schools
and
stuff. And then the good ones, like, or having good experience on the set, or if you're a child actor. I think my rebuttal to what you said about being a child actor is however you get having a good creative experience is going to be the most beneficial. And a lot of times on sets, it's just the most, they have to make a product. They have to make a vision, and they don't have much time to just flounder around saying, what is good acting and bad acting?
Yeah.
You know, they have actual deadlines. And so they force you like, okay, you got to do this, and this, and it takes a lot of the crap out of it. Yeah. So I think you just got to have that.
I agree. How do you feel about child actors in the industry? Do you think it's a smart approach? Like what's interesting to me, I think we talked about the Will Smith, like tennis film, right? Where like, King Richard wrote like an 80-page plan for his kids before they were born. Do you think that that's a good approach?
I mean, I don't know. I almost did a movie when I was like 12. My parents, like, if I got it, they would have let me get it. They called me to give me the part or something. It was down to me and one other kid for a Madonna movie. No, I was like 7. And we ended up going to Hawaii and we didn't get the call and they gave it to the other kid.
So you know what though? I would have like, where's the kid now? Is he doing anything?
I think his name is like like Timothy Chalamet or something.
Yeah.
Took me a second to get that one out.
Bro,
no.
Timothy Chalamet, speaking of which, it's crazy how that motherfucker ascended. Like, you look back a few years and no one knew who he was. Like, that's a crazy trajectory.
Yeah. Now he can do anything he wants. My brother and I just watched French Dispatch last night, Wes Anderson movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like, oh, you can't. It's so, in my opinion, these Wes Anderson movies now are so like self-masturbatory.
Dude.
Corny.
I really haven't seen a lot of Wes Anderson. He's not really like.
Good for you. You're a cup of tea. Yeah, at least you like act on
it's not even, but bro, it's not even that I'm like actively avoiding him. It's my roommate loves Wes Anderson apparently, but he's from France.
My brother does too.
What? Your brother too?
My brother does too. And but we just watched this movie and like it just seems like he gets so into these little things that are just like he's just in his own little fucking farts. He's just smelling his own farts. He's talking about this like artists that they turned into a convict, and you know he's painting the hottest naked ladies in the world, which sounds pretty awesome so far, but it was just so like up its own ass, and everyone talks the same. It sounds so scripted.
Yeah. Me, dude, that's something that I like genuinely worry about. This is the best problem to have, but if you get to a certain level as a director mostly, but also I could see as an actor, where you are like so fucking famous, you made so much good shit, you can then be like a Christopher Nolan and make Tenet, and everyone's like, what the fuck was that, you know? But he has the resources to make whatever he wants. Did you love Tenet? Is that what that?
No, I don't. I humbly as well. And now that I just shit on one big director, I don't love Christopher Nolan's movies either.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't love any of them. But
Even like Inception.
no.
Dude, what don't you like?
Bro, just one fucking like twist after another. What do you think? Midnight Shyamalan and just fuck everyone over and like, oh man, it's just too much. Maggie Gyllenhaal and Batman. I'm not here for it. I'm not here for it.
Yeah, M. Night had definitely had like a roller coaster of a
Hey,
career.
now that's a filmmaker.
I loved. Did you see Old?
No, I heard it was kind of sick. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, my little brother loved it. It got shit reviews, but I'll definitely check it out. I mean, I love The Visit. The Visit is like my favorite from him. Have you seen
Village?
I've seen The Village.
I recall The Village.
I recall it. Yeah, I kind of block it out, but yeah.
Forest, yeah.
But The Visit's dope. I usually
recent?
it was like 2015 or something. It's about like this these two younger kids who like go to their grandparents' home, and then like the grandparents are really fucking weird and like shit hits the fan. They're like, you have to go to sleep at 7, and they do, and then the mom is like banging her head against the wall and shit. And then like the grandma asks the little girl to like crawl into the oven so she can clean it. It's really dope.
That old shindig, yes. That old mystery.
Classic. Yes.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. No, that is interesting. We'll check that out.
What
I like
that.
that.
Watching?
I just saw that movie Belfast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which,
Jamie Dornan.
Ireland, potatoes.
Yes. Is
And,
he branching
I-
out a little bit? It's different from his type.
Yeah. Yeah, he got like the luckiest gig that you could possibly ask for. Talk about trying to legitimize yourself. Kenneth Branagh directed it, who I'm gonna shit on him as well. He made the Murder on the Orient Express movies.
You mean the latest one?
The latest ones.
Bro, I love that movie.
Epic. I love that. They did have a lot, of
You
characters.
hated it?
Well, just Kenneth Branagh like walking around as a Frenchman with a giant mustache, being a private investigator.
Yeah.
I thought it was the corniest thing. But that being said, like there was something about it that was like I could see it having like a cult following. Like it was kind of hilarious and how ridiculous it was. And like Johnny Depp is the killer, kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, though. But dude, I didn't even in the moment, like I've only seen it one time in theaters, right? Like a while ago. But when I was in theaters, I didn't even love it for like a weird reason or because I thought it was ridiculous. Dude,
Yeah.
I was so seriously into it, and I was like, this guy is
fair.
the best actor I've ever seen in my life. That's legitimately what I
Branagh?
thought, bro.
God,
Dude,
love it.
what's the popular opinion? Do people think he sucked or what?
It's a good question. He's like widely looked at as like a great classical British actor,
Yeah.
and now director. I forget what the reviews were. I think it was probably not that successful, but they made a second one. They're making a sequel. So actually, yeah, it probably was somewhat successful.
Interesting.
No, so like maybe you are right. I love that. I'm so happy to disagree.
You can have different opinions, bro. I can't believe you don't like Inception. That's crazy. Just because of all the twists, you just think it's like one after another and it's too much.
Yeah.
It's like too ridiculous.
Yeah, it's too ridiculous, I thought.
Dude, the one
I think it lost me. It lost me.
Gotcha. I think the one part is so epic where the van is fun. You probably thought this was stupid, but bro, when the van is falling in slow motion and then they kill themselves and go into the next world and kill themselves again and go into that.
It's too much for me. It's simply too much. I'm into like stuff that's crazy in other respects. And speaking of DiCaprio, like you didn't like The Revenant as much.
That's true, bro.
Yeah,
this is good, man. This kind of tension is what we need.
Yes, movie wars. I'm into this. I love my roommate, my old roommate Matt, and me. He's an actor. He's a comedy guy. We would disagree on stuff all the time and like wouldn't even think twice about it. I love that. Like,
yeah, totally.
Like, yeah, you probably wouldn't like this, but is this? I'm like, more power to you.
It also makes you rethink about that shit too. Like, I want to now see The Revenant again.
Fair. I want to see Murder on the Orient Express again.
Fuck yeah.
Something I'm big on though, I like to point out the reasons why I like something. And I implore other people to point out the reasons too, if they can. It's not always easy to define, but like Murder on the Orient Express, I can give you the reasons why I didn't like it.
Totally.
That opening scene where they're supposed to, in any type of like, I don't want to say superhero movie, but like action movie, let's say.
Yeah.
When you see the like hero in the beginning, they have to do something that is interesting.
Right.
In a way. You could probably
I don't even remember the opening scene. What did they do?
It was the detective that is Branagh in Morocco, and he does some elaborate chase to catch this criminal. And it gives the audience an indication that this guy is an exceptional private eye, but he's going to come up against the case of a lifetime in the actual storyline of the movie, right? The Orient Express. But the first one has to like show that he's like a badass. And I just remember thinking like, dude, that was the silliest chase scene I've ever seen. Like it was just so silly. I didn't buy it.
Bro,
I sound like a horrible person to watch movies with.
Not at all. I need to rewatch that one too. I'm really curious.
I might have to be homework for next week.
Yeah, for sure. We'll trade notes.
Yeah, Belfast was Ireland, semi-autobiographical of Kenneth Branagh. Ireland in the late 60s during a civil war, and showing how like a guy, Jamie Dornan, plays like the chillest dad ever, who like is just trying to coexist there while there's a war going on, and he's just he's like, I'm trying to just have my family survive, and do we leave or do we stay? Like Belfast is great, but the whole thing, I kind of agreed with most of the reviewers. It was kind of just there's some interesting moments and it was charming, but it didn't really have enough progression, in my opinion, of like, okay, keeping me on the edge of my seat. I kind of got to a point where I was like, they're either gonna leave Belfast or stay in Belfast. What are they gonna do? And then in the movie, it's no real like satisfying twist or anything.
I've got a buddy who is coming to stay with my girlfriend. He's like best friends with her. He's from Belfast.
I love it. I love the Irish.
Yeah, he's coming shortly. Are you seeing Sophia soon?
During this party she's having.
Yeah, he's gonna be there too. So you're gonna be able to meet like a legit Belfast man.
Wow, I will be quoting the movie the entire night.
Circle, bro. Yeah,
full circle.
You gotta ask notes. Yeah.
On my accent. That's what people love, is when you do impersonation of them.
That's
So, I got a buddy named Niall, right? And, to say he's an avid potato farmer is an understatement.
Bro, please do that for Anthony when you see him.
I will get my head chopped off, but yeah, wholeheartedly do it, because, everything in Northern Ireland, they kind of, you could either come from Cork down in the south.
Yeah.
You can come from the north.
Bro, this is what you got to do. I'll introduce you as like you're from Belfast also, and we'll see if we can actually pull it off.
Challenge accepted.
Hell yeah.
We'll have to report back next week with how we do.
Yeah.
By the way, people are starting to get interested in this podcast. I've been talking it up a bit.